Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Politdigm podcast. My name is Red, and today I'm joined by my co-host Alpha.
Hello there.
And today is the third episode of the Politdigm podcast. We're recording this on the 17th of July. I think it's always important since what we're doing. I think it's always important to say the date. Otherwise, I don't know, just like to get context on when we're doing this because there might be events that happen after the podcast, which like changes what we talk about or something like that. So it's always important to know. Um, so today is Monday when we're recording this, and like every week we have published a new podcast, not a podcast, sorry, no, published a new blog, and it is my first blog not the first blog that I wrote, but the first blog that I wrote and published. I have another blog which I wrote, which is going to come out in a couple of weeks. And I wrote about the current Hollywood strikes. Now, for I think it started on, was it like May 1st? Yeah, it was May 1st. May 1st or May 2nd? I think it's May 1st. The Writers Guild of America went on strike because basically writers in Hollywood are, and not just in Hollywood, just in general, are paid really badly. They get treated like basically like slaves, not literally, but like in a lot of situations they're very underpaid for the amount of hours that they put in. They are very much treated like a sort of like uh what like it's basically like a like a paper plate that you use once and throw away sort of deal, right? Which not people should never be treated that way. Mostly in a production like like a movie or a TV show, that is a very bad way to do it, to deal with writers, because that's why in the last couple of years TV shows and movies have been atrocious. And usually the best movies that have come out lately are usually movies that are written by one person, because it's one person, usually it's the director, or it's somebody that's close to the director, so they sort of have a close connection and it's different. But usually when it's like a TV series, when it's written by multiple people, by a whole team of writers, it's pretty bad. Um, and so basically, another thing that which is an issue with the writers is that they're not paid residuals, which is essentially you have a contract, obviously, right, and you're paid a certain amount for your job, and then basically when that sort of gig is over, right, which is obviously writers shouldn't be working with gigs, but that's what I talked about before. um, they basically are paid a residual, like an extra amount based on the success of the show. Now this obviously is a good idea, and it's a great way for people to earn money in between projects, which is a very real thing in Hollywood, because it's not like a normal job where you work the entire year. You might work the first couple of months of the year and then not do anything for 9 months, and then get another job in December or November. So during all those months, you need to still earn something. Um, and so that's what residuals are for. Another thing is that, for example, I'm not sure when it comes to the Writers Guild. I do know about the actors that you need, for example, to get at least $26,000 a year of income to get access to healthcare, for example. And so a lot of actors, a lot of smaller, like less popular actors, the only way they can get to that 26,000 mark is through residuals, right? But writers and both actors, but I'm first going to focus more on the writers, get paid jack shit when it comes to residuals. It's really bad. Shows that are extremely successful from like Netflix or another studios, which have brought millions, if not billions, of dollars to these streaming platforms. The writers, the people who made it possible for them for those shows to exist, get absolutely nothing from it. So
What
obviously,
was the scale? It was 400 times. The
that's
manager of the show gets 400 times the income of the writers or
yeah.
something like that.
Basically, currently the statistic is the CEO of a studio earns around 400 times more than the lowest paid worker that it works in their company, which is insane. Mostly to think that usually CEOs in studios don't really do much. At least, obviously, they do something, but in comparison to the writers, to the actors, to other people like cameramen, all these people, like they don't they don't do crap. They just like do small management stuff, which is not really worth that much. But I'll get to that. I'll get to that. So basically, the Writers Guild of America, which is a union, came together and went on strike. They did picket lines, which is basically like stopping, basically standing in front of buildings and entrances to studios, to recording places, stuff like that. Making sure that they can stop productions in the effort to basically make it so that the studios lose money, which will inevitably, obviously the idea behind it is if the studios only care about money, then if they stop earning money, then they'll have to do something about it, right?
Yeah, I hit him where it hurts.
So the Writers Guild strikes have been going on for 2 months. Yes, 2 months and a bit more. So it's like I think I read a couple of days ago, it was like already on 80 plus days.
Yeah,
Um,
it started on the 2nd of May, so
all right, so it's been a while, right? And recently, a report by a news article called "The Deadline," not a, in my opinion, not a very great news article or not a great news place, but whatever
outlet.
outlet. Thank you. They reported that somebody inside, basically all these big studios also have like their own little, not a union, but like their own group called the AMPTP, which is like I don't remember what that means anymore right now. off
Give
the
me
top of
one
my
second. I'm
It's
fact
like the
checking.
American, I think. I don't remember. It's on the blog.
Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers.
All right, thank you. Somebody in the inside, it was never, they still haven't figured out who, or it's not become public who, said that the current sort of strategy that the studios have is to make sure that these writers lose their apartments and their homes before they can actually do, or before they actually do any sort of deal making. And
Wasn't the
basically,
quote like literally, let's wait for the fall
yeah.
until they have no money and then they'll come back to us?
Exactly. Like basically what they're trying to say is like let's make sure that these people lose like everything and then eventually they'll become so desperate that they'll come back crawling to us and we won't do anything. And they'll be so desperate that we won't have to um basically get any new deal or give them what they're asking for. I need to drink some more. Give me a sec. Got a sip. And so obviously when that happened, people lost their shit because that is a insanely demonic thing to say. I When I read that, I was like, "Excuse me, are you fucking
But I
kidding me?"
love capitalism.
That's like that is insane to say that. It's like you have no humanity to say that. On that day, supposedly, I found out that there's this fund, right? It's called the shit. I forgot it. God damn it! Hold on. Let me search it up. It's basically this fund that is gathering money. I don't remember if it's. I think it's also for actors, but it's basically for people that are striking and other people that aren't striking that are just generally in the entertainment industry that can essentially ask for help um, to get their bills paid because they're being screwed over by the studios, and it's called the Entertainment Community Fund. And basically, the day that that article came out, where that about what the AMPTP said, the amount of donations went up immensely, uh,
Hell
which
yeah.
which is great. It's really great to hear that. Obviously, it means that
Yeah.
people were like, "All right, you fuck these guys."
I have a question.
Hmm.
Isn't like a part of the content creator, not society, but a part of content creators aren't they adhering to the strike? Like for
uh,
example, I know at least Hassan tried to had a poster hanging on his room talking about how something about Twitch writers or something.
yeah, yeah. Hassan Piker was part of in the beginning when he's friends with one of the coordinators of the strikers, the writers' strike, and so he was part of the strikes for a little bit. In fact, that's been that one person called he's called Adam. Fuck, I've seen his name like 3 times today, and I've searched up his name 3 times, and I forget it every time for some reason. It's Adam Conover. Conover, I guess I don't know. That's how you spell it. But he's part of the WGA, with the Writers Guild of America, and he's also part of SAG-AFTRA, which means that he's also an actor. So he's part of both unions that are currently striking. So he's basically been the person that I've been following when it comes to information about these things, because he's there. He's in the actual picket lines. He is there physically in the strikes, and he's a great guy, really funny guy. Does great content. And so not he. What were we talking about? Shit. Right. So
Uh,
the the donations went up, right?
yeah.
And funnily enough, I don't know if I'm pretty sure it's a coincidence. Around the same time that that article came out, it was like the same day or a couple days, like 1 or 2 days afterwards. The current contract that the SAG-AFTRA, the union, had with the big studios ran out. It ended, and they couldn't come to a new agreement. So what happened? SAG-AFTRA went on strike. Now, see, here's the thing: with with the writers, you can still record things, and unfortunately, that's something that's been happening. It shouldn't, because obviously a writer is a fundamental part of a production and should be there while filming, in my opinion, in a lot of people's opinions. Because if there needs to be a rewrite or stuff like that, they need to be able to be aware
Yeah.
of what's going on. It's helpful to have the person who wrote the material right there whilst
Yeah.
watching, whilst
I think
recording.
like Scream 6 or one of the movies of the Scream franchise had like 6 rewrites while filming. It might be the first actually.
Could be, could be. But yeah,
So
basically, if you're ever wondering why like lately movies have been shit, that's probably why, because the writers who make it real are basically being treated like crap, right? So unfortunately, oh pardon me, without the writers, recordings of movies and TV series were still going on. But of course, without the actors, they can't do shit, right? SAG-AFTRA is I believe, one of, if not the biggest union of actors. They have 160,000 members, so 160,000 actors, which is insane. And basically every big actor that you probably like is part of it. Even the most unexpected people, or most unexpectable people are part of it. So yeah, basically actors are on strike, writers are on strike. The stock market, the studios, their value in the stock market is going down because
let's go.
they have halted all productions. Essentially, every movie that was being recorded by Marvel, by DC, by fuck no, by Warner Brothers, by Disney, by Netflix, who else? Whatever, all of them.
HBO, Amazon.
HBO is Warner Brothers. So basically, all of them have stopped filming everything. The only things that are still filming are like productions based on in like Europe, right? So like in the UK, and even then, they're still being affected because obviously there's still like American actors or actors that are affiliated with SAG-AFTRA that live in the UK. So they're still, but they still can manage, right? Because most of their actors are from there. But basically, almost every production has stopped. Now, when this happened, which is what we were talking about before, the CEO of Disney decided to come out of his hidey hole because there was a bunch of like reports where I saw where he's like, yeah, I've now dedicated to be the CEO of Disney until like 2030 or some shit like that, or 35. I don't care. I don't know. Way too long. And then he's like said some shit of like, yeah, we've been production when it comes to Star Wars projects and Marvel projects has been going too fast. Like we've been producing too much stuff and they become diluted. I'm like, Okay, I agree with that. I, as a comic book fan and an enjoyer of comic book movies and series, I have noticed a lack of quality in the last couple of years. So,
Yeah,
okay, I can
you
agree
saw
with
the
that.
new Thor and Ant-Man, so
Yeah. So basically, I was like, all right, that's a good opinion. I agree with that. But then he decided to go and say, whilst being interviewed by SNSBC or whatever the fuck it's called, I think that's what it's called, in this giant like billionaire resort that the the essentially the requirements or what the writers and what WGA and SAG-AFTRA were asking for was unreasonable and I'm pretty sure he said disturbing, which makes you think like, so you're currently being interviewed in your multi-billion dollar fucking field or wherever the hell he was, like this resort, right? And he's saying that that the studios simply do not have enough money to pay what they're asking for, which is like, okay, cool. That's you're lying. It's like you're straight up lying.
idea of, oh, I'm at the top, the money is mine, and the pleb shouldn't get any of it because it's mine. I am the CEO. Deal with
Bob
it.
Bob Iger makes 27 million a year.
That's such a like, even by the name you can tell he's a scumbag.
I don't know how much that is. Let me see. Uh, I remember seeing some report on like how much that was per day. I'm pulling out the calculator. That is fuck me, fuck, fuck me. That's 74,000 a day. What the fuck does he do to deserve $74,000 a day? Nothing. That's the answer.
Well, something has to pay the bills, and the
Sure.
drugs, and the hookers, and the
Basically,
cars.
basically, this guy earns way too much money, which he does
Yeah.
not deserve. And and there's I saw this interview by Sean Gunn, which is mostly known for being unfortunately being James Gunn's brother. But the fact that James
Oof.
Gunn is the CEO of DC Studios, it is a good like reference place, right? Of like, all right, this is a guy who you know is related to big personality, right? And he said something. He said something that was like, oh shit, this guy got some good takes. Um, where he basically was saying how, which what you're talking about for is that a couple of years ago uh, the CEO or the boss of a production company made around, was it 30 times more than the lowest paid employee, whilst nowadays it's 400 times more, which
Yeah.
is insane. Mostly now we're in an age where production has ramped up even more, where you need to have even more people, where you need to pay them even more, and somehow they people are actors and writers are in fact earning constantly less, whilst the big bosses and all those people and the shareholders are constantly making more money. So it's unfair. It's crazy that, to
It's
me,
cruel.
it's cruel because
It's
like,
just that. It's inhumane.
as a person who is very has a very big connection to filmmaking and to basically to cinematography, to me it's disgusting what I'm seeing, because as a person who cares a lot, and I truly care a lot about storytelling, and
Yeah.
could not give less of a fuck about money in that sense. I would rather be able to produce my dream TV show, even if I'm doing it, even if by each episode I'm losing money, but I can still do it. I don't care. I'm happy because I'm being able to make my dream show, right? So seeing that these fuckers that make millions of dollars per year, that basically have some of the greatest actors working for them, some of the greatest writers working for them, and they take it all for granted, and they are some of the greediest fucks, and they treat them like shit, is insane to me. Because I would even feel lucky to be in the same room as some of these writers or some of these actors, whilst these guys who look down upon them or telling them that that what they're asking for is disturbing, whilst all they want is the bare minimum of being able to not lose healthcare and being able to, live life without being scared of, having to, I don't know, get a 9 to 5 job and shit like that. It's insane to me.
Yeah.
It's so the film industry has always been a very much a place of what's it called? Uh, shit, I remember the name. Uh, not this, not it's disturbing. That's not the word I'm looking for. Not
Uh,
manipulation.
uh,
Uh,
dystopic, maybe?
I mean, sort of no, but like where like the big fish like manipulates the manipulation, very manipulative, I guess. I don't think that's the term I was looking for, but that works. A very manipulative like industry where most of the times the actors and the stars and the people who are below the bosses are being constantly put in these very awkward situations where they have to do stuff that they are not per se very willingly to do, but they know that they have to. There is a reason why you constantly hear of stories of like these big like owners of production companies, fuck, what was his name? The guy who Harvey Weinstein, right? Stuff like that. Like, that's like an
Yeah.
extreme example, but that's still in the same vein of this guy who like lost sense of like humanity because he saw he had this immense amount of power when it came to a production, and then used it for bad stuff.
Yeah. Like
uh,
the script is the literal backbone of a movie. You can have a gorgeous movie, you can have a technically extremely impressive movie, and the movie might be remembered for it. But if the script isn't good, you don't have a good movie. You need a good
yeah,
script. Like imagine like the Interstellar. Interstellar is a technical masterpiece. It literally developed black hole theory with it. But if the story wasn't good, if it wasn't compelling, I don't think it wouldn't get nearly as much credit as it got, and it deserves because it's magnificent.
yeah, like it's insane to me. Like, I think that people forget that the entertainment industry is, at the end of the day, it's only the actors, the writers, and the entire production, like team of like cameraman, director of picture, sound, all these different people, right? But
Yeah.
there's so many positions, so
The
many
crew.
things. The whole crew that makes a movie possible. They are the fundamental pillars of the film industry. If all these
Yeah.
people go on strike and say, "No, we're putting our boot down and we're on, and we deserve respect, and we will only go back to work when we are respected." If they all do that, these greedy fucks have
Yeah.
no power. They can't make people work. I mean, unless you're like holding them by gunpoint. Like, if everybody comes together and they strike, that is the best thing, and that's why unions exist at the end of the day, is to make sure that stuff like this happens, where where people fight for their workers' rights. And honestly, whilst it's obviously always sort of depressing to see it needing to be done, it's also very cool to see it being done, because you want, it's like David versus Goliath, right? It's like you want the underdog to win, right? You're like,
Yeah.
yes, you can do it. Like, you can win this. I've also seen a lot of like a lot of criticism towards like these big actors like Matt Damon and a bunch of other actors, mostly because of Oppenheimer, because this whole thing happened whilst the Oppenheimer
Which
screening.
I'm going to watch, by the way.
Nice. Like the whole like pre fuck, what are they called, like the premiere
Uh, yeah,
shows were
premiere.
happening. And there was one, I think, in the UK where they're basically like, they just, every actor just didn't go because they were all part of SAG after.
Yeah.
And I think only like Christopher Nolan went, and even he was like, I don't think that he is part of SAG after. or relate or connected to. I think he is part of the AMPTP or some shit like that. I'm not sure, so don't quote me on that. I don't think that's true.
I
I just
forgot for a second who Christopher Nolan was.
the fuck. But basically, like he himself was like, yeah, like obviously today the actors aren't here, but like he was showing support, right? And there's a lot of criticism of like people being like, oh, these fuckers are greedy, these actors are greedy, they want more, they are so rich, they have everything, how could they want more? And then on the other hand, you also have like these like the less successful actors and stuff like that, where people are criticizing them too, being like, "Oh, these people are being like are also being greedy." They're being basically criticized by all the exact same ways, but like in the opposite, like because of the opposite reason, right? So
Yeah.
it's like what the hell then? Like what you can either be you're either too poor to be or to be able to ask for more, or you're too rich to ask for. It's like
It's that classical problem where you have such a divisive problem that it's almost impossible to please both sides because people are stupid.
nah, it's not even like praising. It's not even like pleasing both sides. Instead, that there's a lot of people that are at the end of the day anti-union. Period.
Yeah, which I
And
think is a barbaric idea and concept, but okay.
yeah, it's like I saw this interesting tweet today, which was like the only reason um, buildings have fire exits is because of unions. The only reason why, whilst working, factories and like buildings aren't closed with padlocks is because of unions. Because if it weren't for unions and people fighting for their workers' rights, stuff like that would be legal, right? You would be able to, you know, your boss could like close you inside your office and be like, you'll only leave when I tell you to, right?
Oh God,
Or
now that you tell me that, I changed my opinion. I really wish unions didn't exist. You're right.
fuck, wait, what? What is this joke?
It's extremely sarcastic, please.
So I was like, yeah, it's like people often forget that throughout history, the only reason why we are in some like feudalist fucking bullshit era is because people were sick of being treated like shit. And often people forget that we are in an era, right? We obviously compared to 100 years ago or 200 years ago, we talked about this. It was like last podcast or some shit where we said like we are very much in a better place than we were 200 years ago, right? It's
Yeah.
undeniable. But people also forget that we aren't in that great of a situation. I think people often look around them and see and don't directly see like people in miserable states, that they often forget that they might be in a miserable state. And Hollywood is a good example of that, because when you think of Hollywood, you think of success, of money, of rich people, and you often forget that that isn't the majority of Hollywood. The majority of Hollywood are these people that work their asses off, these small actors, which you know are like background actors and all that, and that they don't get paid great. The entertainment industry is very unfair, like almost every other industry. But because the entertainment industry is very much based off of essentially gigs, right? Of this idea of like you do one project and then you go to another project and you go to another project. It's not like a TV series, which even then is still technically a gig, um, but is in that sense is slightly more stable, right? That's why a lot of like lesser successful actors do TV shows, whilst other more successful actors do movies, because they can essentially risk it, right? Financially,
Yeah.
they can take that risk. So yeah, it's to me, I love movies, I love TV series, and to me obviously there's always this sort of like, oh shit, like for example, like currently they were filming Deadpool 3, and I was following
Yeah.
closely the filming of Deadpool 3, and I'm like, shit, all right, we just saw pictures of Deadpool and Wolverine standing next to each other, and I was super hyped, and now they just stopped filming them, and it's like, all right, this is probably going to delay the movie like by a couple of months or by a year or more. And whilst obviously that there's a level of like, shit, I'm also like, nah, like I can't put my sort of like greediness or like my entitlement of like, I don't know, I want more movies. I need
Yeah.
to forget that and be like, no, they are doing this for they're doing this for the wellness of people, and therefore
Yeah.
I don't mind.
For example, as you know, but I think the audience, even if they don't know, will soon realize I am a huge nerd. And as a consequence of me being a huge nerd, one of my favorite pieces of entertainment is Berserk. I think you've heard of Berserk. Berserk is huge. And I started reading Berserk, and shortly after, I consumed it in a flash, even though it's like over 300 chapters. It was announced that the writer was dead.
Them.
Yeah, the main writer died at 54, if I'm not mistaken, from a problem with his heart.
Hmm.
And his friend, which was an associate of him and helped him closely throughout the whole process of writing Berserk, helped them. Made this small but incredibly touching memorial chapter. All of this to say that Berserk wasn't finished by the time that the author died. And because of that, a lot of people just voiced their concern, which wasn't about the author, about the author's family. No, it was if they were going to get more Berserk,
Yeah.
which I find incredibly depressing because this was someone's life work. I'm sorry, and that person is no longer alive. And the reason that you grabbed your phone or you're typing something is to know if this little piece of entertainment, which is really good, is going to continue. And sometimes it's hard to separate this type of entertainment art, because it is art, from the people that create them. But we can't forget that yes, there are people behind the whole process that create this type of stuff, and they should be credited fully for their work, because it's an incredibly taxing, hard work, and it can pay off greatly, or it can be your downfall.
Yeah.
The amount of backlash that people have, that people receive whenever a show doesn't do great, whenever a finale doesn't please people, is incredible. It's astonishing sometimes. You can see death threats from all the corners of the internet flying around. And whenever a show does really good, it's either, oh, the show did really good, let's praise it, or it's expected because it's the work of this one person who's really good. But if
Yeah.
the show is really bad, that person is screwed on multiple fronts.
Yeah, like there's I personally I think the best example that I can give of sort of a similar situation is like the Flash show, right? Which
Oh yeah,
is like classically known to be a very badly written show. There's a lot of I watched it. I watched the full show, right? I watched the full 9 seasons. It's a nine, I think,
yeah.
9 or 10. I don't even know anymore.
I love the Flash, and I couldn't bring myself to do it. I stopped at like season 5.
I watched the entire show, and
Oh my god,
I have to
I
say that
pity
like
you.
the last season, there was a lot of it was really badly written. Every season became more and more badly written,
Yeah,
and whilst I still would say that I enjoyed the show. Otherwise, I wouldn't have watched it fully. There was a point where I was like, I might as well finish it, right? And I have to say that, like, yeah, it's badly written. The writers, there was only a couple of writers. There were shows. There were not shows. There were episodes that were written by other people, and you could feel it. You noticed it. You noticed when the show was written by the main writer and when it was written by guest writers. You could instantaneously tell that the vibe of the
yeah,
show was different. And I saw so many people like bitching about it,
yeah.
being like, "The show is awful. How could you? This season was better. This season was better." It's always like it should have ended the show on
On
this
season 1.
season. No, yeah, there's people like they're saying like, yeah, in the show in like season 2. I'm like, what the okay? The show isn't that bad. Um, Like until like yeah, season 5, like season 6 is like the last season where I was like, nah, this is still pretty good.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it was
or
like
like
season 4 that was the point where I said, okay, after this it's just going downhill.
yeah, the issue with that show was a lack of vision essentially, but that's not the point of this podcast. We're
Yeah,
not going to talk
like
about shows,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but like I saw a lot of people that had all these complaints and all that, and surprisingly, a lot of people still very much like Grant Gustin, which is the actor who plays the Flash. So there was still a lot of
Oh,
like
he's great.
still a lot of positivity towards the actor, which is great. But there was
Have you
so
heard the guy sing? My God.
I don't know, I'm not into musicals, so I don't can't be asked. But yeah, I've heard him
Ah,
sing.
he sings well.
I've heard him sing in the Flash show. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I saw constant harassment towards the writers, towards the directors, and regardless of me liking the show or not, and for example, I hated the last season, there was a lot of moments where I was like, all right, that those are some cool callbacks. There was one episode which was like essentially a huge callback to the first season or some shit, which like basically was like closing everything off, like closing a couple like that chapter, right? Or essentially a way to end the show. But I never at any point decided, hey, let me find the writers or the director's Instagram or email and tell him to kill himself
Yeah.
because one thing, one, I have better things to do, and secondly, I'm aware that that is a human being, a
Yeah.
person who has feelings and opinions and breeds like me and has a day to day life, and that they, or if they're constantly being reminded of how horrendous their work is, or or constantly being told to kill themselves,
Yeah.
after a while, that is
Like
going to really start.
people forget the
Yeah,
type of the weight that that kind of sustained harassment has on someone.
yeah, it's not anything that anybody should go through,
Yeah.
and constantly. That's what I was saying about before, but like where people kind of lose sense of that Hollywood isn't just great, like this great, beautiful place, right?
It's not. It's dirty to the bone.
There's a lot of situations like these where people forget, and even some, and that's why like and that's why like these big like these like the bosses and stuff like that can get away with this shit for with like with how by how long it has been going. So fuck, I'm having a stroke. They can get along with the stuff they were doing for this long is because the people, like us, the watchers and stuff like that, are so put these people, these actors, these writers on such a pedestal, right? On such like a high remark compared to us that we don't even view them as people anymore. We just view them as these figures, as these greater figures than us. And we often forget that sure, if from your perspective, if you uh harass this person, it's just to you it's just like I'm just one hater, whatever I say doesn't matter. But the thing
Yeah.
is, it's not just you, it's going to be thousands of people, it's going to be hundreds of thousands of people
And even
constantly
just
reminding this.
even just one person can be enough.
Yeah, and then you have to remember that that you might not do it, but then there's people who might see the actor or the writer in real life, and that they will be, follow them home, do stuff like that, and that,
Parasocial relationships.
and then yeah, then it's
S-
like,
uh,
and that's like the opposite thing of what I just said of like putting these people in these pedestals and like seeing them as like greater things, and then there's people who like see these people constantly in their days to day lives and think that they know them so well that they can just go up to them and be like, hey, sup, want to hang out with me? And the actors, they're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
who the fuck are you? Why are you in my house?
It's like, so I don't know. It's like people forget
Yeah.
that people that work in Hollywood are people, and
Yeah.
that they're
I
just like us, and that they have opinions like us, stuff like us, and that that's why every time you see an actor have like a slightly more controversial political take or anything like that, everybody's there like, whoa,
like
holy shit.
who was the main actress for Wednesday?
Uh, why can't I remember her name?
Yeah,
Uh,
everyone lost their marbles when she like was shown smoking on camera.
yeah, she was shown. No, she was like caught by paparazzi smoking a cigarette. Everybody was like,
Yeah.
"Yo, fuck, why
A
can't I remember her name?"
20-year-old teenager is smoking. I literally saw that. I cried my ass laughing.
20-year-old teenager. No, you mean a
Yeah.
20-year-old adult?
Yeah.
Wait, I can't remember her name. What the fuck is?
Yeah, me neither.
Oh.
Yo, I'm about to go on a tangent. You ready?
Right. No, 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 no. Hold on. I want to finish my thought.
Damn it. Okay, after.
Like, I think the best example of this is like Chris Pratt, right? Like all his wacky ass, like little. I don't even
I
know
love Chris
honestly.
Pratt.
But what?
I like Chris Pratt.
Yeah, but he has some weird takes. He's like part of this weird like church like this religious
Uh,
group. I don't think
I don't know about that.
I don't know if it like classifies as like the classic cult, but there's some weird vibes to it. And then there's
What are
like
you doing,
and then there's
my man?
like the actor who plays Shazam, right? Zach something. I don't remember his name. He's like straight up like a right winger guy. He like follows like gays against groomers and all these like insane like these
Uh,
insane like fascist people on like Twitter and stuff like that, and like promotes like anti-vax shit. So yeah, that's
that's not good.
yeah, Zach Lev some crap like that. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
For example, I loved Tom Cruise, and then I started learning about Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I've never really liked about Tom Cruise. My parents don't like Tom Cruise, so I've always been kind of biased towards
Yeah.
him.
Like my father loves his work,
But then like you find out that he's like part of like the Scientology shit, and then he like basically like
and he's
like
divorced a bunch, and he has
yeah.
problems with his height and women.
No, and I'm pretty sure he like abused like his ex-wife and his daughter or some shit like that. I'm not sure. I'm not 100%, but there's like
There's like a picture of when one of his ex-wives just got a divorce paper, and she's like screaming of happiness in the street. It's great.
so yeah, he's a piece of shit. I mean, he's a piece of shit. Like, obviously, like generally, he like his PR team plays him as like be like this crazy stunt guy, but he
I
is
mean,
like
he is crazy.
yeah, and he does like crazy stunts, and in that sense, it's very admirable. It's like all right, that's pretty cool. But
He
I
flies jets, which I think is
but when it comes to being a person, a human being, a person in a day to day basis, he is a bit of a weird guy.
like, for example, I love Kevin Spacey's work. I hate Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, that's a good example. Like I like a lot of like the old Dave Chappelle comedy shows. He's a pretty funny guy, but lately he is
Ugh,
gone. He's lost it, and he's like going on this
yeah.
like trans hate like tangent where he can think about is trans women and trans people, and he
I
just
am not a chaser.
yeah, he's definitely not a chaser. Anyways, yeah, you can go on your tangent now.
How comes that I feel sexually attracted to a man with boobs?
Yeah, what?
That's
But
literally like you ever saw the Hangover movies?
no, not really.
Yeah, there's like the second one is extremely transphobic, where the guy is like, I just had like he has sex with a trans sex worker, and
Mhm.
then starts screaming because he says, quote unquote, I just had sex with a man with boobs,
Oh, right, yeah, that's yeah. Yeah. What
and then he gets plastic boobs at the end of the movie, which is great.
the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay, you can go on your tangent if you want.
Okay. Okay, I've been waiting for this. So, I suspect that because we have talked about this, you are not a fan of WWE, right?
I think it's dumb. Like it's fake wrestling. The
Yeah.
actors are like I don't understand. Like I thought that for a while. I thought that maybe surely I just didn't get it. But then like Logan Paul got into it, and just because of not I don't like Logan Paul, but like I just saw like on Twitter like one of his scenes or some shit, and like you can just straight up see that they're not fighting. They're barely
Yeah,
touching
yeah.
each other, and they're like, "What the? Are you like? What are you doing? This is so dumb. Like it's this
Like,
this is some shit that a 5-year-old me would think is cool, but like anybody that's older than 5 years old should be ashamed of liking WWE.
so,
So yeah, go ahead.
I don't think people should be ashamed, but I agree.
No, no,
It's
no, but
fake.
it's not shame, but like it's
Yeah,
just
I
that
understand. I understand.
it's like weird.
So,
It's a fake
I
sport.
had
Like
the
the
only
fuck.
thing that I knew about WWE is okay, it's fake wrestling.
Hmm.
Basically, that's the whole idea that I had. And then I saw a video from one of my favorite YouTubers, which is Super Eye Patch Wolf. and he talks about a lot of things in detail. His videos are hours long. He has videos about fake martial arts. He has videos about YouTube scams, etc. And he recently released a video about the unreality of wrestling, basically. And I sat through a 1.5 hour video about a topic that I didn't like, just to come to the conclusion that
You truly don't like it.
WWE, it's not fake wrestling. It's literally matches that are planned
Yeah.
and then executed.
Yeah, they're scripted. Everything is
There's a
scripted.
whole storytell. It's like there's a whole story happening.
Yeah. It's all acted out. It's all
Yeah.
acting. None of it is real.
Okay.
That's
So
that's why there's stories of you'll see like interviews where like the actors, right, the WWE fighters are like out, pardon me, they're out of character, and you'll see like, oh, there's like a moment where there was some sort of mistake where like accidentally somebody actually got hit, and like the
yeah,
person who was supposed to win the match actually got like knocked out or some shit, and everybody just goes like, oh fuck, like
yeah,
we are fucked, we just fucked everything. Like, oh
yeah,
shit.
yeah. So uh, the video had this topic about a main professional wrestler which went by the name of Roman Reigns.
Hmm.
This was around 2010, if I'm not mistaken, where he went into the scene with two other professional wrestlers who were his real life friends. They literally like lived on an RV together and went from match to match together.
Hmm.
And they have great chemistry. Uh, but the whole idea was now that John Cena was only doing wrestling part time as he started going big into Hollywood. WWE needed a new face. And so they started pushing for Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns is technically he's a great wrestler. Apparently, he has great technique, but he was new, and he had zero personality and charisma on the mic, and he couldn't act out a hit for his life. Like he tries to pretend that someone is hurting him, and he looks like he's having a seizure, while also pleasing himself.
Okay.
It's weird. And so everyone started hating him. And I mean hating him. He went on matches and everything you could hear was boo
Yeah.
and this is awful, which is in opposition to the main catchphrase of WWE, this is awesome. Yeah,
That's their
pretty high
fucking
level stuff.
that's their fucking slogan. This is awesome, bro.
They start chanting it during they start chanting it during matches when shit's about to get good.
What
You
the
know how in
fuck?
Portugal we have that chant of this shit is good, like with a Seven Nation Army sound?
Nope.
No?
No.
Okay, no, you just learned something. Uh,
I tend to every time I hear a chant, I started cringing to death. So
yeah.
I don't really know. No.
Okay, so basically for the next 5 years, the corporate of WWE tried to push this narrative that Roman Reigns was a cool superhero and he was a great guy, and he was really powerful, really strong, and everyone just knew that it was plastic, it was fake, and they hated it. They hated every single second of it. Like, the camera just needed to linger a few seconds on Roman Reigns, and everyone started booing. And it all culminated into a night in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, where the person that performs Roman Reigns came into the stage with his championship belt and dressed normally, and he basically said that he had been blessed to do this, but that he had a setback in the most unexpected way, which was that he had been fighting for leukemia and it was back. And it didn't matter if you had booed him or if you had cheered for him, that he was really, really, really thankful for everything.
Yeah,
And
I
everyone
saw
just
that.
started crying.
Yeah, I
Like,
saw that.
people were bawling. I felt touched watching the video and I didn't know anything about this guy. And it was put beautifully by the commentator, which basically said that at the end of the day, you forget that there are people behind the performance and sometimes reality bites back, and this time reality bit back in the worst way possible.
Yeah.
So going back to that talk of parasocial relationships and criticism and harassment, it's easy to hate this character or this idea because someone didn't do a good job, and oh, they could have done better instead. Oh, they're ruining this thing that I love. But you forget that there is people behind it.
Yeah.
There are humans with feelings and dreams and ideas and a passion. And maybe uh, they can't do it because they don't have enough funds, or they don't have enough training, or they're at a disadvantage, or corporate is pushing for them, even though they can't
Yeah.
fulfill the schedules. But it's easy to forget all that and just blame the individuals, ignoring the whole machine that's behind them, that most of the time is the one at fault. Like, how many horror stories of video games that had unrealistic deadlines and just came out as garbage products to be fixed later are coming out? Like
Cyberpunk.
Jedi Survivor, Cyberpunk.
My favorite game of all time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
like how many
Even
games?
Minecraft, even fucking Minecraft, that kind of happened
Yeah,
with like the caves and cliffs update, where you had to like like that update was essentially split in four parts.
yeah,
There's like and they still haven't they still haven't like released everything that they promised at the time. It was like
yeah,
it was like 2 almost 3 years ago, so it's like fucking hell. Yeah,
yeah.
it's
It's
people.
easy to forget all that
Yeah,
because and this was explained beautifully by a psychologist on a video that I watched about exactly that, online feuds. We don't blame the person. We objectify them. It's
yeah,
not James Gunn. It's the fucking director. It's the piece of shit writer. It's the awful studio. It's the terrible mic crew. Just as is in the same way when you're stuck in traffic, it's the great Toyota. Like, you can't be stuck in line for in Disneyland for 4 hours, and I don't think you will scream obscenities to a child next to you. But I have screamed in
some
traffic.
Karen will, some Karen will.
Yeah, but we Karen are not people.
They are
And
beings from another world, from
exactly.
Atlantis.
I'll never forget that episode from Doom Patrol where the girl with like 50 or something personalities had the worst personality of them all appear, and she was literally a blonde version of her named Karen that had mind control powers. It was great. She was so annoying.
The fuck. Oh
That show
yeah,
is awesome. You should watch it. That show
yeah.
is
I still
great.
haven't watched it,
Like,
but
there's literally an episode where a queer street and the whole amount of people in it start orgasming.
yeah, I know. You always like to bring that up. Um,
It's so good
well,
because
like,
a guy flexed the wrong muscle. It's batshit crazy. I love it.
but I think that a good way to kind of explain what this whole podcast has been about, and in a frequent and common uh, thing that we'll talk about essentially in every podcast, because it's to me the biggest issue that humanity has, and that is a lack of empathy, a lack of basic empathy for the people around you and for other people that even aren't around you, just general a lack of empathy. Like, people often forget that people around them are just like them to a degree, right? All those moments where you are alone at home, where you feel depressed, where you might feel lonely or you might not feel well, even the people that you hate the most have moments like those.
Yeah, like I have a thesis, which is the whole reason why babies aren't serial killers. It's because they don't have the power to do anything. And jokes aside, what I
What the
basically mean by
fuck?
this is, I'll explain it. It's not a new idea. Of course, it has been around for a long time now, which is human beings are born evil, and we are educated on things like empathy and sharing, and we try to learn to despise uh, the exact opposites of those ideals, or at least that should be the case. But if you are not taught that, or if you live in a environment that doesn't allow you to integrate those principles, you won't live with them, and then you won't pass them on to the next generation. Because
Right.
truly, when you are born, why should you care about the person next to you? You need to survive. You need to have what's best for you. It's because of our upbringing that we learn to care for others. Like,
Yeah.
I have a sibling, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me because it taught me how to share, and
Well,
to
technically, it
care
was the best
for
thing that
others.
happened to her because that never happened to you.
Well, shut up now.
No,
I am the main character.
it's a good point though. You were born after her, so you
I
know.
know, but shush.
Mm. So, anyways,
Okay, I'm the best thing that ever happened to her, and she's the best thing that came out of my existence.
wait, what? That sounds like she's well, okay.
It's my
Uh,
sister.
right. It
Shut up.
makes it sound like you are her father.
I am not the father.
I am not the father. No, but like there's I agree with what you're saying. Like I'll mention this again like I said in the last I think it was like the last or the first episode I remember my infamous not famous at all manifesto that I wrote where I just talk about a bunch of
It's
stuff
the Red Manifesto.
and the red manifesto. Okay. Sounds like sounds
Let's
awfully
play into
similar
the
to a communist manifesto. Oh no. But like
USSR anthem E-rape version. Starts
but
playing.
basically like there's something I don't even remember if I mentioned this in the manifesto or not, but it's generally a good example of what I mean by people having a lack of empathy, which is I in the past year or so there's been a couple of situations in my personal life which have been less than favorable, and there's been people who have screwed me over tremendously, which happens to everybody, and it and against all odds or against what everybody else would have done, and I know this because people have told me this including my therapist, which was surprised by the way that I dealt with the situation, which is that instead of trying to basically act in a very like become angry and start punishing the person who screwed me over, or becoming getting angry at them, or trying to sabotage their lives, or basically doing the same thing that they did to me, me doing to them. I didn't do anything. I kept talking to them. I never even brought it up. I never started any discussion. I didn't even confront them with it because I thought, why should I care? Right? This person, I'm sure that they probably did it with bad intentions. But at the end of the day, if I talk about this, if I try to confront the person with this, if I try to bring more attention to it, at the end of the day, it's only going to get worse. And me getting angry at them, me becoming violent with them, is not going to resolve anything. It is simply just going to get worse. And in that
And this
moment,
is why you are a beta male cuck, because whenever someone crosses me, I start planning how to destroy their bloodline. So,
I mean, I might think about those things, but I could never actually do them because
fair enough.
I look at a person and even at the person that I hate most, I still can see the human within them, and I think of like, nah, I don't. Well, no, first of all, I can't be asked. I'm just call me
Yeah,
lazy.
not worth it.
It's not worth creating a whole, creating drama and this whole bad situation around it. And again, this person is a human being, and they have their
Yeah.
own feelings, they have their own thoughts, and at the end of the day, if I just move on and keep going with my life, they will eventually leave my life, and we'll never cross paths again. And even if we do, then hey, we'll see what happens. And there's no
Yeah.
necessity of actively trying to make this other person's life worse just because they did me wrong. I know maybe I'm just way too forgiving, and one day this might bite me in the ass. I'm sure it could, but I don't know. I've never really.
No, jokes aside, I totally agree with you because the one thing that keeps coming up in my head whenever I am dealt with these situations is what the hell happened in this person's life so that they act like this?
Yeah. Like
Because I've had bad days. I have said stuff that I'm not proud of. I have done stuff that I'm not proud of. And
yeah, same.
if I know that there was a bad day behind it, so if this person is acting like this, what the hell happened to them?
I don't know, it's just to me I've never like I used to be I was talking to this about Mad Dog, which for who doesn't know is my best friend. That's his like stage name. That's not his actual name. But
Legally
he
mad.
legally mad, legally dog. But he I was talking to him and we were talking about like our childhood, right? Like just stuff about our childhood, and he was saying that like yeah, like as a kid I was a huge piece of shit. Like
Yeah.
I was like I was a super what the fuck? I was a super angry kid. Like I would try to start fights with everybody. I would constantly like be super mean to my friends. And nowadays I really regret it, and every time they bring it up I'm like fuck, like I'm ashamed of myself, right? But I'm
Yeah.
also a part of me is also like I want to make it up to you. Like I want to show you that I've changed. And I think that none of my friends ever when they talk about it, it's never in like a bad way, because they are aware and they can tell that as a person I've grown tremendously. And when we talk about it, it's usually in like a good, productive way of like, yeah, this happened. I really, none of us liked it. In the moment, I saw it as like this, and now I regret it. And if there's other stuff that I did that you never talked about or that I never apologized about, like I like bring it up. I want to talk about. I want to have a good and productive conversation about it, because it's important. It's important to also, when you have had a bad past, when you've acted in ways that now you see as wrong or weird or whatever. It's good to be able to essentially look at your past and be like, all right, I've changed. I did wrong in my past, and now it's time to essentially I don't know, heal, right? It's time
Yeah.
to fix stuff. And that's why I always don't that's why every time I see somebody that like was canceled, right, or did this really bad thing in their past, and they're now trying to, and you can tell that they're actively trying to do stuff to change, I always give them a chance. I always give them a second chance, because whilst the stuff I used to do as a kid is not even close to the stuff that these like popular figures have done, not even close. I was just a dumb, annoying kid. Like I was literally like 7, 8, nine
That's
years
why
old.
I hate children.
Like I was just a dumb kid. Like I wasn't even a teenager back then. So I was really young. So obviously it doesn't compare when it comes to like how bad it was. But I still feel lucky that after all the bad stuff that I did, that all my friends gave me a second chance. So
Yeah.
who would I be to not give other people a second chance? I always want to give everybody a second chance. Obviously, if you give them a second chance and if they do the same mistake again, which that's usually the worst situation, or they do another mistake, it's like, all right, maybe a third chance depending on what happened. But like I feel like this idea of being like, you did this is unforgivable for the rest of your life, fuck you, die. Like
I mean, there are some stuff that yeah, a grain of salt doesn't apply to everything, of course.
yeah,
It's that thing like with the high school bully, like the high school bully that made your life a living hell, but 20 years later you can see that he's trying
yeah,
to make
like
himself alive and helping people. It's like good for you. Still, go fuck yourself.
no, even then, like I was never compared to you, I was never that harshly bullied. I know you suffered bullying. I didn't that much.
Yeah, wasn't fun.
I did for like 1 or 2 years, but it was something very light, and the way that I was, I've never been a person that's like that takes that type of shit lightly. I always fought back in some weird ways. So,
Uh,
uh,
the
li-
backbreaker.
I literally bit people. I remember
I
biting
didn't
my
know about
bully.
that.
A bully like took my hat, and I was like, nope. And they're like doing that thing you like see in movies where they like toss like the hat like between each other. I'm like
Yeah, yeah.
running around until I was like, you know what, I'm done with this. And I jumped one of them and started biting their arms until they were like, nope, okay, here's your hat. Like, fuck this. I
Does
was
he have rabies?
what? No, I would have had to have rabies. So
Yeah.
it's like, uh, It was, yeah. So weird situation. Fun fact: I don't think I've really ever told that to anybody.
No, you didn't. I'm completely surprised, but not really at the same time.
So, and I was like, what, 5 years old or 4 years old when this happened? But no, I was at least five or
Yeah,
six. But I never, any of those people, any people that have done me any wrong in the past, and even in the recent past, I don't know, I never really, I might like them, I might not like them. That's
yeah.
sure. I like, for example, the person that I know bullied you. I don't like them. I interact with them. Unfortunately, I interact with them frequently. But I also,
The who
I will
the
tell you.
demon.
I'll tell you after the podcast. I don't think that I
Yeah,
should mention here.
that's the
For
only person that I can say
for
confidently.
your privacy and their
Yeah,
privacy.
that's the
But
only person that I can say confidently that I hate.
like I don't you know what I mean? Like I don't actively treat them like shit just because I know that they did this. Like no,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna be like, yo, you're super cool, you're super nice. No, I'll treat them like anybody else with the bare minimum of respect that I think that people are worth. And I think that that's also another thing is like people don't really treat people like respect, and a lot of people forget that respect is not something that's like a badge of honor, right? It's something that
it's a
all of us,
duty.
it's like all we are all humans and we all deserve a bare minimum of respect. You can respect some
Yeah,
people more than others. Of course, that's normal. I'm going to respect you, Alpha, more than some random guy on the street that I have never seen before. That's
like
normal
you
because
have the right to respect, and you have the right to be respected, and the
yeah.
duty to respect. That's it.
So I treat everybody, even people that I fucking hate, like even if like if I saw Andrew Tate on the streets, I wouldn't
Oh,
go
the top G
I
in
wouldn't
his
go
Bugatti.
I wouldn't go up to him and beat the shit out of him. I'd be like, you know what? Personally, I don't really like you.
Honestly, I don't think I could. It's
I
just saying.
I feel like you have really shit takes, and I think that the
Yeah.
fact that you're a human trafficker makes you a horrendous person, and then I would leave.
Yeah.
I would not assault him. I would not yell at him. I would
This is where we differ. I would pull out a 9 millimeter.
whoa. And the moment he starts yapping about the Matrix and how I'm part of the Matrix and how I'm part of this mind brainwashing organization that doesn't exist because he has watched too many movies.
Yeah.
Uh,
Proceeds to punch him. Does this feel like the Matrix?
so yeah, I just be like, all right, whatever, you're dumb. I'm out of here. I can't be asked.
There's
My
literally a clip of him saying that Portugal is not a failed economy, and I couldn't handle it. I just like saw him saying that and I closed the video.
I don't even know he
Yeah.
knew about Portugal. Uh,
Yeah, he was in vacation in Lisbon or something.
oh,
I'm sad that I wasn't around. I would have ran him over.
what the
Uh,
fuck?
I
uh,
like to commit physical assault.
it's like 2 months from now, come on the podcast. So guys, I lost my driving
Manslaughter. That shit was on purpose.
I lost my driving's license. One day I went to drive and the police simply pulled me over and said that I was deemed dangerous. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I just said that I was going to kill like 15 people
It's like
in different
that
occasions.
clip from again the video where the Armstrong of "I made it the fuck up" meme came, which is like manslaughter, sir. I did that shit on purpose.
Fuck. Anyways, it's been an hour and a couple minutes,
Yeah.
and I think that's a good time to end the podcast.
Yeah.
As
Let's end it on manslaughter.
Exactly. As as usual, make sure to support us on Patreon if you would like to see us do more cool content. And if you just think that we have some interesting takes or whatever, I don't know. It's up to you. Make sure
Who
to
the hell would think that?
make sure to support us on Patreon. If you support us on Patreon, you'll have access to our private Discord where you can talk to us directly, and you'll have access to a debate channel, which is going to be a cesspool when it exists
Yeah, that's
or when
gonna be
people start
fun.
talking. And you'll also have access to, which is more important, regarding the podcast, you'll have access to our podcast Q&A, where you can directly ask us questions, where we will answer them in the end of each podcast in this section right now. And yeah, that's it. Make sure to read our blogs. We have some cool stuff coming up.
Yeah.
I've already written the seventh podcast not podcast, seventh blog, or not really. It's not written, but by the time this podcast does come out, it's probably going to be fully written.
Yeah.
So it's something that me and Alpha are enjoying a lot. It's fun. It's a way for us to like just let our let our anger.
Vent our frustration.
Yeah, basically, like we were talking the other day, me and him, and we were like saying that like basically like all our all our fucking blogs are written out of anger. We're like,
Yeah.
this shit is pissing me off, and I gotta vent. So
I wrote the first blog and then I showed it to Red and he was like, "That's not a blog. That's
yeah,
like
that's not
it's
a
just
blog. That's like a
where's your opinion?"
ramble.
And I was like, "Wait, I can show my opinion? Oh, this is gonna be fun."
Yeah, it was like the most badly like formatted fucking word file I've ever written. Ever read. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, I get your idea, but this is not a blog. This is just a
And then you gave me
a
the
psychotic ramble. It's like,
and then you gave
fuck.
me the masterpiece,
Yeah,
the absolute prime of literature, lit
literature.
words
Yeah.
that I have posted now. So
Yeah, I did do some rewriting on his podcast, but fuck, why do I keep saying podcast? The blog, god damn it.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it was still his blog. But yeah, make
Yeah,
sure
I'm
to check out the
currently
blog.
currently starting to work on the next one. Should be coming out next week.
Yes, should be coming out on the. Hold up, let me open my calendar. Coming up on the 24th of July, I've already written the podcast. The blog that's coming. God damn it! What's wrong with me? I've already written the blog that's coming out on the 31st. On the 7th is on the 7th of August is another blog written by Alpha, and then on the wait, no, is it? Yeah, on the 7th, and then on the 14th is the one I was writing today. So yeah, we are very excited, and we're gonna have a bunch of stuff in the back burner.
I'm having a
Obviously,
blast.
there's going to be like the blog that came out today. It was not supposed to be that was originally not the blog that was supposed to come out, but since it was the current thing going on, the current topic, oops, sorry, pardon me, the current
Yeah,
topic that was going on, obviously we decided, all right, it's important to talk about this now. And so sometimes we'll have blogs that are, it's like basically more, it has more of like a news article feeling, since it's like more current, accurate, like stuff that's going on. And sometimes we'll just talk about
stuff.
environmental issues that, like which is what I was writing today. I was
Yeah,
writing about like environmental issues, and when it comes to like how it's caused by corporations and stuff like that. And it's just like, it's not like obviously it's a current thing, it's happening every day, every second, but it's not like a breaking news type of vibe.
like a yeah, exactly.
So
I still want to do a blog which just talks about the evolution of anti Middle East sentiment.
yeah.
So it's current, but it's not
Yeah, it's not like
like
you
breaking
didn't
news.
write it. You're not writing it
Breaking news:
because
Muslim people are disliked.
it's not
Shocker.
it's not like, yeah, because like there's blogs where we'll write because it's something that's happening, and we're like, all right, I'm inspired, let's write about this. There's other stuff where I'm just there like, I need to write something, and I'm like, okay, there's this one topic that I'm passionate about, and let's write it. Like the one
Yeah,
that's coming out in a couple of weeks is about trans people and how they're being, discriminated against like immensely currently in the U.S. And that's something that I find very important, because again, it shows a lack of of a sympathy for human beings. And yeah, that's basically what's going on. But yeah,
exactly. So yeah,
anything you wanna say, Alpha, before we end the
nah,
podcast?
just once again, thanks for listening, and be sure to check us out everywhere.
Yes, we're all on basically we're even on TikTok. We've not posted anything on there. Give us ideas if you
I
guys
do
would like
not
this.
support this. I am against this.
No, it's just purely out of like,
Yeah.
anybody that watches content knows that like TikTok is the best way to promote shit. You might like TikTok more or less. I don't like them as a company or the
We
way that
should
they
start
do
making
stuff,
those
but
fake podcasts posts to
yeah.
shout out our real podcasts.
Like those like fake podcast clips that aren't actual podcasts, like
They're
some
always about crypto bros.
yeah, we're gonna start posting sarcastic crypto
Yeah.
content on TikTok, where we seem
Like
like we're
crop
talking
out
about
our
crypto.
icons, just put it into like really buff people,
It's
really
like,
attractive people
so
just
so
talking about
Alpha, have you
money.
heard of feces coin? Have you heard of feces coin? I've invested 10 billion in feces coin,
I
and I'm
am
about
more a fan of the Dogecoin.
nah,
I have put
that's
my
old
child's
news.
tuition in it.
L plus ratio. I don't know. Anyways, thank you
Yeah.
so much for watching, and we'll see you all next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.